camera floating in the ocean just captured the wildest Starship landing footage SpaceX has ever released. SpaceX's new buoy cam footage from Starship Flight 11 has stunned the entire aerospace industry. What the recovery team recorded during re-entry and splashdown is something no one expected to witness.
Pitching downrange. Booster Raptor chamber pressure nominal.
All right, we are about 45 seconds into flight. We're still getting the rattle here. So at this point, we've passed through that period of maximum aerodynamic pressure. The next thing we're looking forward to.
And here's where it gets even more unreal. Starship Flight 11 wasn't just another giant steel rocket falling back to Earth. This mission carried the weight of an entire development phase on its shoulders. It was the final flight of the Block-2 Starship, the last chance for engineers to squeeze every drop of data out of a design they'd spent years refining. And SpaceX didn't treat this like a ceremonial lap. No, they pushed it harder than the flights before it. Flight 11 was built to test the things that are hardest to get right: controlled re-entry, heat shield durability, flap behavior and insane airflow, and a clean landing burn. This mission mattered because the next iteration, Block 3, depends on these results. The industry watched closely because SpaceX wasn't just proving a point. They were closing a chapter, and Flight 11 didn't fly like its older siblings. It flew with higher expectations, more scrutiny, and way more pressure riding on it. But wait, the part that blew everyone's mind wasn't even the flight itself. It was the angle that made everyone sit up. The recovery team buoy footage, a tiny camera bobbing on the ocean, holding its ground like a stubborn witness, staring up at a skyscraper of fire and steel descending from the sky. SpaceX puts these buoys in the splashdown zone for one simple reason. They're the closest safe observers. Ships can't be directly under a landing rocket. Drones can't survive the heat, but a buoy? It can take the beating and keep filming, and that's exactly what happened. This view is almost unheard of in spaceflight. NASA, Roscosmos, ESA, almost nobody has captured a massive rocket from ocean level, unfiltered and unpolished. No stabilization, no edits, just raw, violent reality. You're watching Starship at its most vulnerable, grappling with physics, fire, and atmosphere. Then comes the cinematic chaos. Starship slicing back into Earth's atmosphere like a blazing meteor. Plasma glows orange around the hull, heat shield tiles spark and shed, and shockwaves ripple through the air. The belly flop posture, the flaps acting like wings, every detail captured in brutal clarity. Finally, the pivot. Starship rotates from horizontal to vertical as if a building were standing up. The buoy rocks, waves slap the lens, wind screams past and the sky burns overhead. No drone, no helicopter, no agency has ever given a view this raw. Pure adrenaline, captured from the closest seat in the house. But nothing, absolutely nothing, compares to the final seconds. Right when you think Starship is done tumbling, the Raptors fire, and the sound doesn't just arrive, it slams into the buoy like a shockwave. Those engines roar to life with this deep, thunder-like rumble that shakes the entire frame. The perfectly timed flip snaps the rocket into position, so precise it looks scripted. SpaceX has done dramatic landings before, but this felt like someone dropped a skyscraper and caught it with jet engines at the last millisecond. And the camera is way closer than anyone expected. You can actually see the burn plume punching into the ocean, carving steam explosions out of the water. It's insane how close the buoy was allowed to be. Every frame looks like the lens is about to melt. Then comes the splashdown. Violent, heavy, almost brutal. The whole world goes white for a moment. Steam, spray, shockwaves colliding. You can feel the impact through the shaking footage. Aerospace engineers couldn't believe it. Not because Starship survived, but because the footage was so unforgivingly clear. It exposed every detail, every plume swirl, every structural flex, every chaotic second of controlled destruction. This wasn't just a landing, it was a front-row seat to the most extreme engineering stunt SpaceX has ever shown to the public. And just when the steam cleared, the shocker appeared. Starship didn't look like a wrecked, scorched survivor. It looked solid. The buoy footage shows the exterior covered in heavy charring, sure, but not the kind of catastrophic burn marks you'd expect after slicing through the atmosphere at hypersonic speeds. The heat shield tiles? Most of them were still locked in place. Far fewer gaps or missing tiles compared to earlier flights, where chunks sometimes tore off like loose shingles in a storm. Engineers noticed this instantly. The hull wasn't buckled, the flaps weren't warped, and the overall structure held together better than any previous water landing. It was almost unsettling how calm the vehicle looked after such a violent descent. Flight 11 showed noticeably less distress, fewer signs of thermal fatigue, fewer impact scars, and far greater post-landing stability. For a rocket, this massive surviving splashdown in such good condition is a statement in itself. But here's the part that really turned heads inside the industry. You can literally see the upgrades working in the footage. First, the heat shield improvements. Tiles glowed, absorbed the heat, and stayed on. That's a massive leap forward, especially when future missions will carry humans. The whole belly glide looked more controlled, almost smooth thanks to improved flap articulation. They didn't jitter or fight the airflow like in earlier flights. They held their angles with confidence. The re-entry stability was on another level. Instead of wobbling or dipping, Starship sliced through the upper atmosphere with a cleaner, more predictable path. And when the Raptors lit up, you could tell they'd been tuned. The landing burn looked tighter, with less plume flickering, hinting at improved combustion and thrust control. Even the splashdown impact told a story. The rocket absorbed the hit like a tank. No violent bounce, no obvious structural collapse. Those reinforcement upgrades paid off. And here's why all this matters. Crewed missions won't tolerate unpredictability. Every tile that stays on, every flap that responds perfectly, every engine burn that executes cleanly, it all pushes Starship closer to safely carrying astronauts to the moon, Mars, and back. This wasn't just an upgrade test. It was a rehearsal for humanity's future ride. And as soon as the footage hit the internet, the industry lit up. NASA engineers paid attention instantly. They've partnered with SpaceX for Artemis, but even they didn't expect this level of control from a splashdown test. Inside NASA, people were saying the same thing. If it can stay that stable in the ocean, lunar landings should be no problem. Meanwhile, competitors reacted exactly how you'd expect. Respectful on the surface, quietly uneasy underneath. Blue Origin, ULA, and even overseas programs understood what that footage meant. SpaceX is edging dangerously close to mastering reliable, super-heavy re-entry. Aerospace analysts echoed that feeling. They praised the clean flip maneuver, the burn timing, and the raw clarity of the footage. Many called it SpaceX's most valuable landing video ever because it reveals both strengths and flaws with total honesty. Everywhere, the takeaway was the same. Starship isn't just surviving tests, it's advancing faster than anyone predicted. That buoy footage plays a huge role in shaping future landing architecture. It directly supports SpaceX's vision for return-to-launch site landings, where Starship will one day glide home like a Falcon 9 and touch down with pinpoint accuracy. Before that can happen, engineers must fully understand how the vehicle behaves in the final seconds, especially during engine relight and thrust balancing. It also tests assumptions for future pad landings, where splashdowns disappear entirely. The visuals reveal whether Starship stays upright, holds its attitude cleanly, and maintains enough thrust margin in those final milliseconds. And then comes the bold step: tower catches. Mechazilla requires zero wobble and perfect descent control, so any instability shown in buoy footage becomes a problem engineers must eliminate before attempting a catch. For lunar and Mars missions, this data is gold. It verifies vertical braking behavior for Artemis, refines reentry modeling, helps improve heat shield durability, and tightens guidance during the engine relight phase. Everything learned here feeds directly into Block-3 upgrades, booster landing strategy, and long-term crew safety, making Starship more predictable with every test.
Starship has landed.
Flight 11 marks the turning point toward Block 3, the next major evolution of Starship. Block 3 vehicles include a stronger structure, improved insulation, and more durable tiles, all designed to handle repeated reuse. Meanwhile, SpaceX is making major launch pad upgrades, including reinforced ground systems and a more advanced water deluge array to support rapid-fire launches. These upgrades are essential for the high-cadence test campaign coming next. The next big milestone is preparing the Mechazilla catch tower for its first real catch attempts. SpaceX plans to start with booster catches, then move toward Starship catches once the descent profile is perfected. For the first time, SpaceX is also working toward a full booster plus ship reuse test, the holy grail of fully reusable orbital rocketry. Once data confirms stable and predictable landings, SpaceX will slowly transition toward ground landings instead of splashdowns. Upcoming flights will test precision descent, flap control, heat shield resilience, and eventually tower catch readiness. Starship Flight 11 didn't just survive re-entry. It delivered the most jaw-dropping splashdown footage SpaceX has ever captured. And if the recovery boys can film this now, imagine the first ground landing. The next Starship flights aren't just test missions anymore. They might genuinely rewrite the history of spaceflight.